Hi guys, welcome to ExamDebug. Chris McKenna here. We're going to start a new series on computer law. So thinking about laws, I would ask you, have you ever committed a crime? Hopefully the answer to that is going to be no, but you might actually be surprised. A lot of people, when they start looking into computer law, they start to see that there's a lot of things that they may have done in the past that were not actually legal. So we'll see. I can think of plenty of occasions when, perhaps you and your friends, one of you had a song, an MP3, and you passed it on to another friend. Technically, you've just broke the law by doing that. Okay, so what is copyright? Copyright is our set of laws, or is a law to protect a person's intellectual property. Now, we'll come back to intellectual property in a moment. But I want to be clear here that copyright is not necessarily universal in the sense that there isn't just one copyright law. Most countries have their own versions of it, and so we're trying to talk about it in general. You need to check your own country to see what the laws are there. Anyway, so copyright is designed to protect a person's intellectual property. For example, music. So if you did pass that MP3 or whatever on to your friend via USB, then you have potentially committed a crime in your own country. So what is intellectual property? Well, here are some examples, and maybe you can figure it out. You could have music, you could have movies or TV shows, you could have artworks or graphic art, computer games. There are loads of different things which are considered intellectual property. And these things are things that you can't actually physically touch or own, but can still belong to you. For example, I have a physical product here. I have my phone. This is property. It's not intellectual property. However, I also write books, and those books that I write, I own them as well. Now, it's not the physical book I own. I might own a physical book, but what I own is the story and the ideas inside of the book, and that is intellectual property. So it's the same with music and movies. The ideas, the concepts, the non-tangible, the stuff you can't touch, is still your property. You can still own things even if you can't physically touch it. So famous example, recently there was someone, I can't remember the guy's name, video called Blurred, or music called Blurred Lines, and it turned out that he had copied parts of his music from, I think it was Marvin Gaye. And so he was, I think they were sued. I think they lost the fight, and it was deemed that they had actually copied the ideas. They copied the rhythm or some kind of beat or some kind of backing from this other artist. Okay, so the question though that a lot of people get confused with is intellectual property, breaking copyright law, is it theft? Some people argue yes, some people argue no. Generally, most people would agree, though, that it's not legally theft. Copyright law and theft are different things. I think one of the major differences is, for example, if someone steals my phone, then my phone is gone. I no longer have it. Yeah, I have lost mine. Whereas a lot of the time with intellectual property, say for example the song, if you copy it from one place to another, you have two of them. So you haven't taken that. If you say copy the song from your friend, you haven't taken your friend's copy of it. You now have two copies of the same thing. Likewise, if I download a piece of illegal software or software that's copyrighted, then I'm making a copy of it. I'm not destroying the original one that was there. So there is like a slight difference between theft and copyright, which is, I guess, where the sort of moral implications come in, because theft, you're taking it away from someone else to have it as your own, whereas with copyright, you're duplicating the existing intellectual property usually. Okay, so who benefits from intellectual property? Now, there's going to be a big argument about this, or there might well be arguments about this, so please feel free to do your comments below. So generally it's said that artists benefit from copyright. If I spend, I don't know, it took me nearly a year to write a book. I think it took more than a year now that I think about it. And that was a lot of work. That was a lot of time. It was a lot of effort. And if somebody else then takes my work and gives it to other people for free, maybe I'm going to be a little bit upset about it. Well, in my case, I'd be quite happy because then people would read it. But maybe especially a professional. So if someone's trying to make money out of their work to survive, to pay the bills, to do all these things, then they've got to get paid for it. And if people are just copying stuff from one another, then they're going to lose out. That's the artist, the person who spent all the time, who put all the work in, will probably lose out. Likewise, companies of course benefit. Music industry, games industry, all of these things are massive multi-million-dollar enterprises, and it makes a lot of money. And the artist gets some of that, but a lot of that also goes to the companies that are selling it, distributing it, and all of these other people involved on the big chains of the production side as well. And it could be argued, or is argued by some people, that everybody benefits from copyright. For example, let's say the Avengers, which is a very popular franchise. What would happen if they didn't get any money from making that movie? Do you think a sequel would be made? Chances are it'd be very unlikely, because that would be a sort of charitable thing at that point, because investors, the people that are putting up the money for these big grand movies, they are pouring in millions and millions of dollars in investment, and they're hoping that they're going to get money back from that investment. And so the only way that certain things might be produced on that scale, at least arguably in our current system, is if we have copyright laws to protect it. Same with the artist. I mean, I guess it depends, but would an artist spend all this time making his work or her work if they weren't going to get anything back from it? Or would they have the time to, if they're having to have a full-time job and do some painting on the side, could they afford to do this? I'd like to say at this point, copyright is automatic. So as soon as you make something, it's automatically got copyright law. So again, that's another reason why it kind of benefits everyone. You don't have to go through a big legal process unless you're going to fight for your copyright, so to speak. It's good to have evidence though. Okay, so who loses out? Well, oddly enough, artists sometimes. There are a lot of artists who feel that copyright law is used to hold them back, that it works in favor of people that are already there, bigger businesses. There's lots of examples of people who have created free things and have then become successful. I'm thinking of the Arctic Monkeys and some other people who are putting out free stuff and they're still making money from it, but they're able to do it. Whereas other people feel that sometimes corporations and other people, they have a very limited idea of success or financial success, and maybe it's constraining other artists who want to do something that's maybe not quite so mainstream, perhaps. Another major one is the poor. So this is going into another topic that we've already done a video on about the effects of computing, but we have this system where if you have money, you can afford to do more and get more money. For example, Photoshop. Photoshop is an incredibly expensive piece of software, but only people from, say, the Western world can afford it. Can some poor person living in a village go out and buy Photoshop? It might be 3 years worth of wages. It's it's not so good. And so this is why you do get a lot more copyright violation and less following up on the laws in developing countries generally. And of course, everyone loses out because everyone has to pay money for stuff. It becomes very commercial. It would be nice if, if I just want to see a movie, if I can just go on the internet and watch it. And in some ways, everyone loses out as well. Okay, now there's lots of exemptions, and these usually, depending on your country, come under what is called fair use. For example, I don't know if you know this guy, this is the Nostalgia Critic. For example, you can use it for critiquing someone else's work. You can use it for parodies. This is based on, I don't know, Star Wars That I Used to Know was the YouTube video, but it's based off of Somebody That I Used to Know, which was a famous music video. And there's also in academics, in education, you are allowed to use these things as well. But be very clear here, because let's say, for example, I want to make a report for my geography, or for history. Let's say I want to make a report for history. And I'm doing it on, I don't know, Albert Einstein. I decide to go online and I take a picture of Albert Einstein and I put it into my document. Well, that's not actually allowed, because it has to be that you are academically discussing the actual image that is there. So if we were talking about, if you were doing a report on historical images of Albert Einstein, yes, you could use it. If, however, you're just using it as decoration, this doesn't actually fall under that. So be very careful with this as well. Alternatives. Okay, there's lots of alternatives out there. If you're stuck, yeah, so it's not that you can't do anything ever. For example, there's lots of programs that are similar, like instead of Photoshop, you can use GIMP, which has a lot of the same features, but not quite all. Instead of Microsoft Office, you can use OpenOffice. There's lots of alternatives that are free and that people give away. You can ask the person for permission. You can say, hi, can I use your picture in my report? And they might say yes, especially if it's for a school thing. There are some places, like I get most of my images off Pixabay, and these are free. They're giving away free pictures for people to use. And I guess they get money from advertising, or they offer other services through that as well. And of course, you can just straight up pay money. So, if you see pictures appearing in places, like often Getty, you see Getty at the bottom, that usually means the website has paid for those images. Now, just because something is online does not mean that you can use it. And one good way to check, I'm just going to show you now. Okay, so one useful feature we can have is on Google. So we can say for example, show me a question mark. And we go into images. And you'll see here search tools. And you can actually filter it on usage rights. Now this is not entirely perfect, but you can, so you do need to still double check, but you can search for items that are labeled for reuse. Now you'll notice the quality often goes down quite drastically, but most of these, there's Pixabay one, should be free to use. But please always check on the website to make sure. Like I said, there's also certain websites where you can go and you can have a look and you will see that those images are available. They'll maybe say somewhere on the website. If it doesn't say, you have to ask, you have to check. Otherwise, you might well be breaking the law and infringing someone else's copyright. So, what do you think about copyright? How does it affect your life? Is it fair? How could it be done different? How could people still make money from their work while it being given free to other people around the world? I mean, think of YouTube. Think of how people manage to make money off of YouTube, but they don't charge people for their work. How does that work? Are people just being generous? Are we just doing it for free? So think about the alternative paradigms that are available. Maybe you can write some below, or you can express your own thoughts on copyright. Anyway, thanks very much. We're going to have a look at data protection in the next video. Please like and subscribe. Good luck with your exams.